In the previous videos, I went through the implementation of bullet time, or the time freeze mechanic. And here we have it working there. But when making the game originally, something that we found sort of lacking was any kind of graphical indication of time freeze, that time freeze was active, and to really highlight that the player was immune to it. So we tried things. We tried putting ice cubes on all the enemies, but we didn't really like that one. So what we ended up doing was applying a shader to everything that was affected by the time freeze. So the background and the enemies all got a custom shader on them, and only the player then would pop out from the background. So let's do that today. I'm gonna start by just making a folder here for my shaders. Okay, and I'm going to want to put it on something. Let's put it on, let's start with the background. The background is going to dominate the scene, so let's see here. What is the background? This sky sprite. Now, everything in the game here is a sprite renderer, so we will need to apply them here with a new material. This is the material that gets on sprites by default, so we'll need a new material for that. Let's call our material, let's make a material for the background objects, and then maybe we'll make a separate material for enemy objects. Let's go ahead and apply that to our sky. Hold on. This is a prefab, so let's open the prefab, and I want to apply that to the sky. And now we're going to need that custom shader. So there are a couple of options in Unity of how to approach making a shader. I have made videos before where I've explored using shader graph. And this time, let's see, what shall we do? Shader graph doesn't appear to be here in the list, at least not pre-installed by default. So because of that, and because I've made shader graphs before, let's just make a regular vanilla shader. So for my sprites, there's no lighting, so all I need is an unlit shader. And let's call this one the background shader. And let's get right to it. Here's what we get by default. I guess I should put that background shader on my material. Let me show you how to do that. It's actually really easy. You can drag and drop right on there, and then it'll fill that in for you. You know what? I don't want to call it unlit background. I want to call it a TBE background shader. And then let's fix this. Yeah, okay, it fixed it for us. Excellent. So that's the TBE background shader. I like to verify that my shader's actually working and connected. So that's very easy. I'm going to return red. Okay, so I'm just going to return red from the fragment shader, and so everything using that shader should turn red to confirm my shader is compiling and it's connected to my background object correctly. First of all, I need to make this transparent. Because it is transparent, we will need blend settings. And the blend settings there's two parameters that we want to control, is how much of the sprite to draw and how much of whatever's behind the sprite to let show through. So the amount of the sprite we want to draw is going to be governed by the sprite's alpha. So that is the source alpha. And what shines through the sprite is whatever's left behind. So that would be the inverse source alpha. It's not called inverse, it's 1 minus source alpha. Right. These I always have to look these up. Before we implement the color shifting thing that we're going to do, let's first make sure that we've got the sprite basically working. Some sprites may be doing some color shifting, so we'll want to support the color Also, Sprites support this flipping. And as you can see, that's not supported by our shader. So let's get those things sorted out, and then we'll work on the custom feature. The first feature I think we should work on here is the support for color. Right now we're ignoring this field, so if we want to, make it red, it's not doing anything. If we want to fade it out, that's not doing anything. So let's fix that. That color does not come into the shader via the material. That color is set on the sprite, and it comes into the shader via the vertex color. So we're going to need to add into the vertex input information some color. I'm going to call it color. And it comes in on the color semantic. Yes, checking my notes here. Apparently it comes in on the color semantic. So we're just going to call that color. Right, and we'll need to then add that to our output as well. So we'll do fixed for color. All right, and in our vertex shader, that means we're going to be getting this structure with the color in it coming into the vertex, and we need to send it back out of the vertex out. So o.color equals v.color. All right, that seems good. And then that'll come in the v2f structure now has color in it, and we need to respec that. So we're going to grab the color from the texture, and then we can multiply, term-wise multiply i.color. Okay, if we tint the background, hopefully, there we go. Tinting the background does work. We can do that. Let's check the alpha. Does the alpha work? We can fade out a sprite. Excellent. So that all works. The other thing I mentioned was this flipping. The reason that doesn't work is when you flip the sprite, you are turning it upside down. And so now you're looking at the back side of the sprite. And by default, the renderer is going to be set to cull backsides, and we don't want that. So all we have to do is go into our shader and turn culling off. So we'll just do cull off, and that will turn culling off. Yeah, there we go. So now that works. We can flip it, flip it, flip it, flip it, flip it, flip it, and everything renders. Okay, so we now have reproduced the original sprite shader, I think, faithfully. We have all the features I'm aware of, everything that we're using. Let's now add on that color shift. So in the original game, here was my HLSL shader for what we were going to do. There were two things going on in here. One was the invert, which the invert feature was based on whether time warp was active or not. And then there's this other thing, depth. There was a depth shift that desaturated the color for things in the background. Get the enemy shader, which should have the invert and does not have the depth cube. So what are we going to need? We're going to need these two global floats. So I'm going to put them here. I think I'm going to keep with the pattern, which is underscore capital letter. If you have a variable down here, like main text, for example, and that variable is in your properties section, like main text, that makes it a material property. And then that is set when you activate that material. And that's editable then in the editor on a per material basis. If you've put one down here, such as invert, and that is not in the material properties, then that is a global or constant. That is a constant that is not going to change on a per material. You'll need to write a script to change that. Let's just start by copying. We'll do it again before the fog. So there was our color input. that we had, and there was a vert color. Yeah, vert color is eye color. And it looks like that is applied after the fact. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be call equals, and this vert color is now called eye.color. And this, I'm just calling them call, so we'll change to call. Depth is not called depth, it's called underscore depth. I changed that. And meanwhile, invert is going to have the same problem. Let's throw it up in here so that we can control it. Invert, and it is a float equals 1.0. There you go. All right, so now the material. The material has an invert value on it, and 0 looks like that. 2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 1. Let's make another shader now that the enemies will use. So we'll need another background, or we'll need another material. I'll call that enemy. And let's give me another shader. And I'll call that enemy as well. I'm going to stick that on there. And for this one, I'm going to do the same things that I've done here. The original enemy shader used a slightly different version. Here it is. So let me copy that one. Enemy shader. There we go. Okay, and so all things color are call. Color, 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 color. And vert color will be called eye.color. Eye.color. Oh, this is call. Okay, and what this one is doing is calculating a brightness value, is just, you know, doing a square of the RGBs, and then based on that, making a grayscale. So this is, I called it invert color, but it's not invert. We need to apply that to some stuff. Let's give me an enemy 01. Let's put that on him. It's called enemy. Oop, there's an error shader on that. Enemy 01. Let's drop one into the scene. Okay, that's not looking right. I must have an error in that shader. What do we got? Yep, line 59, I used color. Yep. Wait, no, 59. Yeah, it's call. Oh, and I'm going to run into that same problem. I did not bring over my global variable. Invert, let's put that in here. And when I refer to invert, it is now underscore invert. Okay, let's try that. There's my enemy, and let's move him off of me so I can see where he's at. Enemy, where are you at? Move, dude. Boop. Interesting. Okay, so he's not getting transparency in his transparent pixels. So maybe the transparent effect isn't right. Render type transparency, got my blend. I don't have a Q. Maybe I need Q. I have to put in quotes. Q equals transparent. Let's see if that matters. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't think, sorry about that, I didn't realize that these sprites needed that feature. But not only do they need a render type, but they'll need a render queue, which is where in the pipeline those are going to get done. I assume sprites would go there automatically, but I guess not. But to tell it to, so I'll put that in both shaders. And now let's do the same thing that we did before, which is give me a way to twiddle that. Okay, there's what the inverted sprite looks like, and so that he's frozen. All right, he's all blue, right? Because he's been frozen. Let's see here, enemy material, and I can edit the amount of frozenness. So this is his normal look, and then when he freezes, he'll look like that, and then as he unfreezes, we'll ramp that down. And he'll resume. Okay, the last thing we got to do is we need to write a little script to set those render global variables. Depth I'm going to ignore and just not use it, at least for now, but we will be using the invert parameter. And so what do? In my update for bullet time, I'm going to say, let's see here, I need a float for the invert factor. And by default, it's 0. And then if, let's see, in here, this is when bullet time is over. If bullet time is over, invert is 0. Otherwise, if bullet time is ramping out, then invert equals lerp. Lerp counts down from 1.0 to 0 over the course of that. So that's perfect. And then the else, I mean, you know what? There, I'll default it to 1. So if we go through the else, if bullet time is over, it's 1. If it's in this ramp time, it's ramping. Otherwise, it's full on. So there we go. And now let's just do, we need to set a global variable into the render state, as in we're setting a render constant. And we do that with shader dot set global, and there's a bunch of them, and it's a float. So we will set underscore invert to have the value invert. And there we go. We need the rest of the background elements to get that material assigned. I only did the sky. Let's do the lava. Lava. Okay, so the background should be set. What else have we got in here? The enemies. Did I get everything? I don't know. That's seems like it's probably everything. Let's give it a try. So the background shader, maybe we should desaturate a little bit. What if I do this? Let's try that. I think I like that better. See, now the enemies really pop as like blue against background elements that sort of fade to a gray or white. So I am doing first, I'm going to put a comment here. First, desaturate colors, and then invert them. Okay, and on enemy, we're not doing either of those things. We are convert the color to a brightness value, and based on that brightness, shift to a monochrome bluish color. All right, I like that. I'm going to call that done. That is my time warp shader. So now I've got some fun. I have to integrate all of what I've just done today here into the main branch because I've forked off into a little sub branch. So I'll get that done, and then before I release this again to a new release, I think I want to add some more content. The number of levels seems like we need more levels. So maybe I'll do that before I push this out. Yeah, be looking for the next announcement to be a new release of the game that has these features and then hopefully some extra levels. Okay, I'll see you out there.